All right, welcome back to Buc What You Heard. My name is Gene. You can reach me at Buc What You Heard. You follow me, I'll follow you back. And the Bucs are 2-0, but you wouldn't know that listening to Bucs Twitter. But I digress. Special guest on. I got Trevor Sikkema, but first and foremost, I want to introduce my co-host, KB, not to be mistaken for Shaq Barrett. Ken Barrett, how you doing, man?
Good. Rocking a Brady jersey tonight. Just changing it up a little bit.
I know, man. I never would have expected that from you. I figured,
See, it's the patch. That's the reason
yeah.
why I got Brady. I like the little extra that they threw on there.
All right. And the man of the hour, Trevor Sikkema, Pro Football Focus. I love the app. And
Newly to Pro Football Focus.
it doesn't matter. He's there. And he's our guy.
Yeah, he's taken over PFF now.
I don't know about all that, but appreciate the kind words, y'all. I'm very excited about this podcast. It's always a good time popping on, talking a little bit of ball with you. So I appreciate you guys having me on.
So, week 1, week 2, I just want to get your assessment of the Bucs. Are you of the mind where everybody's worried, or are you of the mind, the Buc What You Heard mind, where we're like, okay, you get about 6 games into the season to really know what you have. Right now, you're weeding out contenders and pretenders. I've been saying that since week 1, and I'll continue to say that until, you get a little bit more consistency and you get an idea of what these teams are doing.
Yeah. If anybody at all is worried about the Buccaneers, I would simply tell them that winning in the NFL is hard. Like, it doesn't matter what team you are. We see the Chiefs get taken to the wire sometimes, like every single game, right? I mean, we saw them get taken to wire with the Cleveland Browns. They came up with a loss for the Baltimore Ravens, and that's the team that's obviously like unbeatable. That's the bar. That's the Chiefs. And like, they're in games all the time. And so it's so funny to like listen to people. And I know that they would tell you that they think the Bucs are good, but there's a lot of people that nitpick on a lot of things. And you can't necessarily be a perfectionist with all of this, because take it back not too long ago, pre-Brady, obviously, when
2018,
when the Buccaneers were, I mean, like, even think about the last year with Dirk Cutter, and even the first year with Bruce Arians, right? The Bucs were in games. They were right there. They were there. They were there scoring enough points. They were very close to winning these games, but it was more often than not they came up on the wrong side of the coin. They just like barely lost those games. Now it's on the other side, and they're sometimes barely winning these games. But the important thing is that they are winning. They are a team that has a DNA to, when these games become a coin flip, like it so often happens in the NFL, what they're able to do is come out on top, right? I mean, like, look at what happened
Dallas.
in week 1. Week 1 is the number one example here of this team being of a different DNA. The Cowboys score. They put all the pressure on the Buccaneers. And if there was anybody out there that was nervous, they haven't seen Tom Brady play over the last 2 years. Like, it was such an unfamiliar feeling watching that week 1 game for the Buccaneers, knowing that when Tom Brady took the field with that much time left and the score not in his favor, knowing that they had to get down the field to make it happen, no doubt. Like, there was just absolutely no doubt. And that's ultimately the thing. Do you want to blow teams out? Of course, every fan wants their team to blow somebody out. That's when they have the most fun. But that's not realistic in the NFL. Like, the NFL life just doesn't work like that. It's not college football. The talent level is too even. And so you just have to appreciate that right now, though it doesn't look perfect, it's never going to look perfect. And what's actually important is that the Bucs have the DNA to come out of these close contests with wins, and have so more often than not over the last 2 years. That's what's the most important thing. And honestly, like, that's my biggest takeaway over the first 2 weeks, whether it was a great opponent that they were playing first in Dallas or a not so great opponent they were playing with the Falcons. They're 2-0. They won both games, and they won it differently.
Yeah, they beat Dallas, and they beat a division rival. I mean, you're off to a good start. KB.
Not only that, I think as Bucs fans, even just flash back to last year, the Rams game was the first time we really got that Tom Brady experience. Oh, he's got the ball, he's going to drive us down and win the game. It didn't happen. And I think that's probably where fans started to, and that was right at the beginning of that losing streak. So it was, jump off the bandwagon, world's ending. But flash forward, the Bucs have won 10 straight games by 30 or more points, or scoring 30 more points, excuse me. And Tom Brady, as we saw with Dallas, we don't have to worry about this anymore. And for Bucs fans overall, this is an offensive team, which is not something Bucs fans are used to. We're used to a dominant defensive team. Yeah, we had the 2 pick sixes, and I'm sure we're going to dive in with Trevor to the analytics and the grades for the secondary. But with everything that the Bucs are doing, you have to trust this offense to put up 30 points. It's a race to 30 every game now, and the Bucs have won the past 10. So why are we even like worried? It's week 2. Defense is going to get better. Todd Bowles is still, going to blitz, but at the end of the day, we want this defense healthy. If the Bucs get to the playoffs with as much health as what they did last year, they're going to be a really hard team to beat, and that's all you can ask for, in my opinion, as a fan.
I think that something that everybody has to remember is like the other guys get paid too, right? And you look at this Bucs offense, and you look at this stud offensive line, and you look at all the passing weapons, and of course you look at Brady himself, and you think like, wow, on paper, like nobody can beat this team. But I think about the last game that they played against the Falcons. There was a drive. I can't remember which number drive it was in the second half, but Matt Ryan led the Falcons down, and I believe they ended it with a touchdown. And like Todd Bowles was throwing everything at him. I could not. I remember tweeting about this live because I was so impressed with Matt Ryan, because I would not have changed a single thing that Todd Bowles did. Matt Ryan just was great. He was just a great quarterback, and it happened. And like those moments happen in football all the time, where you simply have to tip your hat, and you just have to give the other team credit because they get paid too, and they're great too. And Matt Ryan is still a really great quarterback. And that was an example where you could have looked at it and said, what the hell is the Bucs secondary doing? Like, how are they out of position? How are they letting these guys catch these balls? All this. And I was watching it live, and I would have told you I wouldn't change a thing. The offense for the Falcons just went out and made a play. And that's why it's like, you can come up with excuses, or you can come up with complaints about anything when things don't go well. But the game doesn't happen with perfection. Even when you win a Super Bowl, even when you're the best team in the NFL, you're not the perfect team, right? I mean, like that's never the case. It's just that you put yourself in the right situation to make plays more often than not. And I think that the Buccaneers are still absolutely doing that. They are a better team this year than they were last year. And yes, that includes them winning the Super Bowl down the stretch. And I think that everybody just needs to remember that when they struggle, the other guys get paid money to play for pro football too. And that's just what it comes down to.
Well, and then also week 1, I don't think anyone anticipated Dak to look as healthy as he did and come out with that kind of firepower. I mean,
he didn't miss a beat. He didn't miss a beat from week 5. What was it? Week 5?
Heck yeah. He was on pace for like 7,000 yards last year before he got injured. And then he comes out week 1 with all of the shoulder issues, obviously the devastating ankle injury. And if you take that one interception he threw was a dime.
Yeah, it was.
And that was the change of the game. That decided the game. I mean, yes, the Bucs gave up 4 turnovers, but as we learned, they just need 1 or 2 to be able to win games now.
Yep.
Yeah. And guys, I really want to put this out here. I feel like a lot of the issues that the Bucs have are coachable. I don't think it's the physical tools. I don't think it's the physical tools of these players. I think these players need to, become cohesive like they were towards the end of the season last year. I mean, that's kind of what I'm taking away from it. I just don't feel like they're playing as a total unit yet, and I feel like they'll eventually get to that point. But I'm just not stressing over the secondary. They're making mistakes, yeah, but I think at the same time, look at what Edwards came out there and did, and you're one of your starting players, and you're still able to win the way they won. So I don't know. I think the Bucs will continually get better as the games progress, as long as they can stay healthy. And I'm not jumping out the window. I'm going to say this week in and week out. They're still weeding out the contenders from the pretenders.
Yeah, and I would definitely agree with kind of what you're saying, where there's no lack of talent with this team. Really anywhere. You can point out weaknesses and strengths, but clearly, I mean, this is basically the same exact roster that won the Super Bowl last year.
Right.
And situations are going to be different, but this team has the ingredients for the recipe to win again. They really do. I think the biggest thing is not take this past week, for example, right? The Falcons stink. I think the Falcons are going to stink this year. Like, I don't think the roster's good. I think their defense is absolutely terrible. Like, I think Matt Ryan and Calvin Ridley and that offense can make things happen, especially when they start to get Kyle Pitts really involved. Like, I think they'll be able to score points, but like they're not good. They're not going to be one of the better teams in the NFL. And I think a lot of people saw that last week. And then when Tampa started to let them come back, I think everybody got really nervous, like, oh, this team's letting their foot off the gas. And that's really the biggest area for me when it comes to this team that would be, I guess, my biggest area of concern. And it's not even really a concern, but it just kind of like is what it is. I think that's what I would point to, because last year, the reason why I didn't think the Bucs were a Super Bowl team is because I didn't think they had enough time together. Like, I didn't think that they were going to be able to get that chemistry. And midway through the year, when they dropped the game to the Rams and they dropped the game to the Chiefs, I was like, this is what I was talking about. Like, it's a talented team.
The Bears.
They're going to make the playoffs, but I didn't expect them to be that next level team. I thought that was going to be this year, to be honest. I was predicting them to make a Super Bowl this year. But they obviously hit it hot. They win it all. Now it's about making sure you don't get your head too big, right? And don't let your foot off the gas when you're the reigning Super Bowl champions at home facing a team you're supposed to beat, right? And I think that's it.
And to that point, I do want to say this. I feel like because they're the defending champions, people are going to throw the sink at them. Because
they get everybody that shot.
And I don't think the fan base quite grasps that point, that whoever they face, you're the defending world champions. We're going to throw everything at you because we want to be the team that beats you. We want to be the team that beats Tom Brady and the Buccaneers that won that Super Bowl. That's where we are. And I don't think people understand that when these teams that may not be good, these players are going out there just because you're the defending champions. They want to beat you. And that's what that's what a lot of it comes down to. And I'm not taking anything away from the mistakes that we've seen, the penalties or the turnovers. But at the same time, this team, they need to be ready every week. That's because that's what they're going to get. They're going to get everybody's best because they're the defending champions.
Uncharted waters, right?
Exactly.
People who have been Bucs fans for a long time know that's
I'm out of my element right now.
That's almost never been the case. So it's funny.
But then look at the leadership, though. I mean, it starts with 12, but I mean, we're even seeing, I think last year, the biggest telling in terms of leadership was the whole Gronk thing, where it comes down to, Gronk's not looking that good. He's dropping some passes. Him and Brady aren't on the same wavelength. And all of a sudden he just comes out and says, I'm a blocking tight end. That alone just deflated all of the tension that media, fans, and everyone was experiencing, because that was a weird breaking point, especially after the Bears loss. There's just a lot of tension going on there. And then we see it this year. I mean, Brady or Gronk was on, Manning last night trying to say that he doesn't watch film. We all know that's a lie. But you have this, all of these expectations, and you have someone who like Brady who's ultra serious. Then you have Gronk who can kind of just deflate everyone, keep you loose, because I think as a player, when you have these expectations, you're going to play tight. You need to play loose. You need to come, where they're going to play this Sunday, where the Super Bowl is going to be at. If you don't think these players aren't hyped up or even nervous, you're crazy. I mean, this is what football is all about. And as fans, I think we just got to let this happen, win or lose, AB, no AB, whatever it is. I think this is going to be a great football game. Don't worry about the past 2 weeks. I think I'm the biggest Byron critic there is. And I think his game plan last week was wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
And going off of what he did in the playoffs last year, particularly the Super Bowl, we're seeing all those elements now. And I think seeing that week 2, I'm not worried about Bulls. Bulls, I think at this point, play some coverage, get through healthy, play the fourth quarter, play third down, keep it simple, let the other team beat themselves. And the Bucs, we're learning they're not beating themselves anymore, which is what they did even last year.
Yeah, and I think a key identifier for that was the last drive with Brady down the field. No penalties. And how many times? And Trevor, you can, and KB, you both can attest to this. In years past, the Bucs are driving down the field. It's either a pick six or a back-breaking penalty that just kills the drive, kills everything. But what we're seeing from Tom Brady, and again, I hate to keep bringing his name up, but what he's done for this team, you cannot deny what he's done. And just looking at how this team is right now, I just it just builds your confidence when you watch them.
Yeah, and I think about what I said before, where you don't want to get complacent, right? You don't want to think you're the champs. You don't want to sit here and underestimate an opponent that wears an NFL jersey. And I think back to when they won the Super Bowl. I remember watching Sean Murphy Bunting's Instagram videos, and he's in the locker room, and everybody's like partying, celebrating, going crazy. Like, it's a young roster, right? Because people forget that. Like, yeah, they had veterans on the team that made a big difference in Sue and Gronk and Brady and all of them, but like, it's a young roster. Like, these are still young players who are contributing and throughout the depth chart. So like, these guys are going crazy, right? They're in their early 20s, mid 20s, and they just won a Super Bowl. They just achieved their basically like lifelong dream. And so like, they're all losing it. They're going crazy. And Sean Murphy Bunting switches the camera over and it shows Brady, and Brady's just like packing his duffel bag, like he's getting ready to like go home. And I remember like Sean Murphy Bunting, like the little caption on it was just like, "Tom been doing this." And it's just, I think that for as funny as that was and how much I enjoyed that, like for the young players last year to watch their quarterback win the most prized possession in the sport and basically not give a crap. Like, I think that was extremely motivating for them. Like, I think that, because obviously, like, he celebrated with them, he was happy for it, but he immediately probably like the next week was out on a high school practice field, probably throwing again, getting ready for the next season. And so, Gene, I know that it's a tired thing. We keep bringing up Brady, but it is such an unquantifiable thing what his presence does for this team, especially not just winning a championship, but now coming off of one and thinking that you can repeat and win another one someday and all that stuff. So,
yeah, I'm right there with you, because if it's me and I'm on this team, I'm following his lead. I'm following his mindset. And I think, he's the blueprint to winning. He is the blueprint. So when I'm seeing these players, and you could tell that game against Dallas, I don't know, I know you saw the meme where Tom Brady's face when he was getting ready to go back on there and do that last drive. And they said at this moment you knew Tom Brady. You already knew,
right?
And that's just where this guy is in his career. And we as Bucs fans are fortunate. I mean, I think about being able to see Barry Sanders. I've seen him live. I've seen Randy Moss. I've seen all these players, Hall of Fame players, Warren Sapp, seen all these players live. But Tom Brady, just watching, and I haven't got to see him yet, but it will happen because of COVID. It's going to happen. But besides that, Tom Brady, I would have to say, is probably the greatest quarterback I've ever seen, on film in my life. You can't put him up against anybody else. And I hated the guy. I'm not even gonna lie. I hated the guy, except for when they went undefeated, because I hate Roger Goodell a little bit more than I hate Tom Brady at that time. So I was hoping that Tom Brady gets undefeated, and I was hoping that, Goodell would have to shake his hand and all this other stuff after what he pulled, but didn't happen. But again, this man, what he's done, what he means to football, I mean, it's just incredible. And the fact that he's in a Bucs uniform, Bucs fans need to appreciate this. Stop worrying about all the little things. If the Bucs are winning, that's where that should be the end of your concern right there. They won the game. Let's let them do what they do. Trust the process. Coach Arians, he's got this. Let's go.
And then it's nice to see unbutton Tom Brady. I mean, we've seen him in New England for all these years, and I think that's why I hated him, because it seemed like he was just such a robot.
He was a machine.
He was Bill Belichick's like mini me. Just go around, say the same old things, blah 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 at his press conferences. I mean, I'm not even talking about avocado, tequila, Tom Brady. I'm talking like, he's actually speaking out for different, things going on in the league. He's actually a spokesperson.
Yeah.
Everyone's bullying about the whole numbers thing, but it's not just that. Like he's talking about, the different pay structures going on, with the cap, which affects every single player's salaries. Like these are things he wasn't talking about in New England. So having like, again, not just like even a spokesperson, but he's really an ambassador now for Tampa Bay, which is something that we've never had before. Warren Sapp was never a spokesperson for the league. Media hated him.
Right.
Derek Brooks was great. He never talked. So having a voice, and then I think his social media game is just, spot on. The whole 328 when he's posting for the, the let's go for the next week for the Falcons game. I mean, like he's taken his just personality to a whole new level, and I think that's where I've become a fan. Is not just his play on the field, but what he's doing for the game, the city, just really putting Tampa Bay on the map.
So do we want to talk about the Mike Evans question or any of these things? I see the comments that we got coming in.
Yeah. Before we get to the Mike Evans will be second because I've been bullish on Rojo since he was drafted. I want to get your take on Ronald Jones right now, where he is, and you can cheat and use Pro Football Focus to help you with your answer if you want to. If you need to, go to PFF. If you guys aren't aware, PFF.com is going to be your friend for life. I mean, if you're looking for statistics, getting ready for your fantasy football, hit up Pro Football Focus. Trust me.
They also have cool specials going on too, different code words. I'm sure you can find them on different podcasts that you listen to throughout the sports industry.
Yep.
I know this is tough.
Put him on the spot,
Trevor. This is a safe zone. This is a safe zone. Right here is a safe zone. Anything you say, you're safe. Nobody's going to think any different of you.
I would just say this. We're looking at an uphill roster, or we're looking at an uphill climb for Ronald Jones to be on this roster next year.
I've already concluded that he will not. I think that that play where he stepped out of bounds before the first down,
right?
I couldn't explain it, and then the whiff on the block, I couldn't explain it. I couldn't justify it.
And that's kind of the thing, right? I mean, when Ronald Jones came in the league, I mean, his USC tape was awesome. I mean, he was running with confidence. He was a highlight machine. He was a big play machine. You understood why the Bucs drafted him. And I think that when Jason Light looked at what could be for Ronald Jones, he saw that. And I don't want to take that away because his scouting and his film in his final year at USC was awesome. Yeah. His first 2 years in the league, I remember I was a Pewter Report for his first 2 years, and so I was covering him there. He was really skinny his first year. Like he didn't have the build. He was not big enough to really survive in the NFL. He wasn't big enough to take contact the way that he needed to. I'm sure he was the size he was to get more speed, but he couldn't even get to the open field because the NFL is just different. It's a different animal. So that first year he was gaining a little bit of weight. I know he was a little bit homesick. It was first year in Tampa, and we've all been there, right? Whether it's been like graduating college or first time moving out of the house, it's just like life is different, and life is weird when you take those big steps. And I think
when you're 21 too, I think people take that or don't take that into the equation.
Right,
they just expect that they're already coming professionals.
Right, 100%. Like Ronald Jones, I think was 20. He was 20 years old, I believe, when he got on the Bucs. He was one of the youngest people in the draft class, and so like when you're a 20-year-old who's from Texas, goes over to USC in California, and then goes all the way across the country within a span of 3 years, that's a lot to expect from anybody. And so all of that goes into, I think, some early struggles that he had in his first and second year. Obviously, he gets to his third year and he looks a lot better. He looks a lot stronger. He looks a lot more explosive. But the X factor stuff is not there, right? The discipline stuff is not there. Right. He can't pass protect. He can't pass catch. He can't stop fumbling the football. This was supposed to be it, right? This was supposed to be the year. The monkey's off the back. They've won a Super Bowl. There's no pressure on you now. Like this is it. And where I think Rojo runs hard, he does not do enough of the little things to be on a team that is of championship caliber. Whether it's gaining the extra yard and getting your team the first down before you step out of bounds, or holding on to the football when you need to most, or picking up a key block, or whatever it is. it has been too many times now that he has not been the running back that they have been needed him to make. Can he run in a straight line? Yes, he can. Very fast. He can be a home run hitter. But there's so many other things that go into playing running back than that. And he has been, I would think in his own words, he would tell you he's been a disappointment in that area. And so an entire career doesn't come down to one play, right? But I really do believe that from the moment he stepped out of bounds to make it 2nd and 1, he put himself on notice to, okay, as of right now, you're like, he's no longer on this team next year. And everything he does from here on out will be him perhaps gaining that spot back. But as of right now, I would tell you he's lost that spot. This is the last year that Rojo is going to be on the Buccaneers. That's what I think.
I think that he's auditioning for another team. Is where you are right now. I
even
think
more so.
He's putting film out there for another team. But go ahead.
Even more so though, I think a change of scenery might actually do him good. I mean, Rojo, talent-wise, vision-wise, maybe not catching the ball, but he's a better running back than Leonard Fournette is. If we're talking pure talent, if you need to get those 2 or 3 yards. Yes, Lenny is gonna fumble or tip a pass to defensive backs. It happens. And, your friends over at Pewterport have the whole Leonard section. Leonard! This guy does a lot of things wrong. But what it's not from a lack of trying, for Leonard. He has a flow. He doesn't miss blitz pickups, as much as Rojo does. He does all those small stuff like Trevor's saying, to the point that, if Gio's not on the field and we want to run a play action pass or, a running back screen, we're going to be more confident in Leonard doing that role than Rojo. Rojo at this point, I think he's going to be the 4-minute back. I mean, you're going to give him the ball, you're up, 10 points, whatever. You're trying to run the game out, run the ball out. But to me, like you're all saying, I don't think Rojo is going to be on this team. And I think OJ Howard, had he even be healthy, I think is in a similar boat, because what do we talk about with both of them? It's always about potential.
Right.
And ever since they've come in, we have these lofty expectations for him. And Rojo battled COVID last year, battled through injuries, still almost had 1,000 yards. Had Tom Brady not, wanted to get Antonio Brown some extra money, he probably would have gotten it.
Yeah.
And that's the sad truth and the reality. And this was his time to get paid. We've seen running backs across the league do not get paid.
No.
This was his opportunity. And I think he's going to have to sign a 1-year deal elsewhere. But you know what? It works out. As everyone knows, I went to Berkeley Prep. Nelson Aguilar went through the same exact thing. He went through the whole drop thing in Philly, goes to the Raiders, is somehow the deep threat over Henry Ruggs, which God knows, I don't understand that one. But then he gets 15, 16 million a year in New England. That's the cycle of the NFL. You're going to have these expectations of high draft pick. Some people are going to live up to them. Most of them aren't. And you're going to find a way to find a role somewhere, and hopefully you figure it out, year 4, 5, 6, and you can make a career out of playing football.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, like, I'm not saying that Rojo can't get better. Anybody listening to this, it's not like I think that his season's over. It's not. I'm simply saying that I really do genuinely think that from the moment he stepped out before that first down line, it has now become, you're not on this team next year. So you are now working to get that roster spot back. There was no guaranteed, yes, he was going to be back next year or whatever it was. Like, now the understood is on the other side of it. Now the understood is, okay, you're not making this team next year. Now you have to make up for it to get that roster spot back. I really do believe that, because you just can't have that. You can't do, this team's trying to win a championship. You can't do stuff like that. Absolutely not. That just can't ever be a thing. So that's kind of where I am with Rojo.
Yeah. Okay. So I think we're all in agreement that he is on notice. He's going to have a lot to do to make this team, if he does make this team. Personally, just when I saw him step out of bounds, and this is the NFL. You're a professional athlete. You're supposed to be aware of your surroundings. That's something that we have seen other running backs do. And here he is. He's how many years into the league? He should know better.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, regardless of who his coach was, who his coach is, or whatever, he should know better. He should be aware of his surroundings. This is what he needs to do.
You're also like, he's a running back, right? I mean, this is what you signed up to do. You signed up to put your shoulder into that guy and get an extra yard. Like if you're
especially a DB too. Like
right,
we're not
like
even
if
talking
you're
like going into
like
Sue.
if you're Deshaun Jackson, or if you're like Will Fuller or something, where like you're just a speedy, skinnier kind of like deep threat wide receiver, and you stepped out of bounds maybe before like giving extra effort to get some yards after contact, like okay, like that stuff happens. Rojo's a running back. Like that's his entire job is picking up that 1 yard. Like this is what you signed up to do.
And he's a violent runner. We've seen this from him before. So I know what he's capable of doing. It's just kind of frustrating to watch.
Yeah.
So I do want to address the elephant in the room, that being Mike Evans. And I want to give you the floor. I mean, we're looking at Mike Evans. What was he? 5 receptions for 75 yards last week, I think, something like that. 2 touchdowns. And I think he's almost at 100 yards for the season so far. People are already saying, "Oh, he's not going to get 1,000 yards." I've gone on record saying that he will. I really believe that he will. And I want to run this by you, Trevor. I'm going to let you go because I know you've seen the comments.
Yeah, I don't know about the 1,000 yards. It all just depends, right? We go into the season and we're like, okay, well, who gets
barring injuries? Let me say barring injuries.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, and it's like I don't know you don't know who's going to get the lion's share of the targets every week. Like the team has a super diverse wide receiver and tight end room so that they can always go to different things. Now, I'll put my Mike Evans thoughts out there like this. Mike Evans is no different right now than he was when he was like an unbelievable bona fide wide receiver 1, Jameis's go-to guy, leading the league in all sorts of like touchdowns and big time catches and everything like that.
Sophomore season.
And I don't mean that to say a negative. Like Mike is still that guy. He's still that guy. The difference is Jameis isn't force feeding him the ball, right? For 4 straight years, it didn't matter because listen, here's the thing about Mike. He's never going to be a big time separator, right? I mean, like that's not his game. He's 6'5", and Mike is an alien of an athlete for being 6'5". I want to make that very clear. He is a plus athlete, big time, for being that big as a wide receiver. But he's not going to be this separating monster. He's not going to be this super flexible and quick separating kind of a guy. That's never been his game, and it's not going to be. But with Winston didn't give a damn whether you were covered or not. He was throwing you the ball. And that worked because Mike's incredible at 50-50 catches. So the ball was coming to Mike Evans even when he was fully covered and Mike was coming down with it. Well, guess what now, guys? Now it's not just Mike Evans. Now they have Chris Godwin. Now they have Antonio Brown. Now they have Rob Gronkowski. Now they have all of these guys that they can throw in the mix, and they've got Tom Brady who's looking at them. So someone is probably, unless it's a play that's really designed to go to Mike's strengths in either a situation or a certain coverage look or matching up against a certain corner, whatever, there's probably going to be somebody on the field who has better separation than Mike. And that's just the way it is. Like, that's literally his game. It's nothing wrong with Mike. That's how he's always been. He just has a different quarterback now throwing him the ball. And so when people say, hey, like, what worried about Mike Evans, like the big question is always, it's with fantasy football people, right? That's where this really gets down to things, is fantasy football people are like, what's wrong with Mike Evans? And then sometimes fan bases can latch onto that and they go, oh yeah, what is wrong with Mike Evans? Nothing. There's absolutely nothing wrong with Mike Evans at all whatsoever. If you took Jameis and put him right back on Tampa's offense, Mike would be a 12 touchdown receiver again. Like that's exactly what it would be. Nothing wrong with him. And Mike has always been a super team first guy. And so if his team's winning, he ain't going to complain to Arians. He's not going to go over and be like, hey, I need more targets or whatever. Now, if the Bucs were losing, Mike might go, hey, I believe in myself. I believe when you throw me the ball, I'm going to come down with it. Give me a couple
Right.
more chances. But until that's the case, he's going to roll with the game plan. He's going to be happy with it. So those are all of my Mike Evans thoughts. Is it comes down to there's only one ball, and not only is there only one ball, Mike's brand of play is it's not easy for a quarterback to make that kind of decision to throw him the ball when you have Antonio Brown and Rob Gronkowski and Chris Godwin also on the team.
Yeah.
Like, look at Keenan Allen, right? Here's an example. Keenan Allen, every single year, no matter what, is going to get 140 targets. He's going to have like 9 games over 100 yards, and he's just going to be a catch reception monster. Do you know why? Because Keenan Allen's entire way that he wins is off of routes and separation. So it doesn't matter who they're playing. It doesn't matter what the corner is up against them. And it doesn't even matter who his quarterback is. Keenan Allen is going to get separation. Anytime you have separation as a quarterback, that makes it an easier throw. That makes it a more desirable throw. And that's just the way that it is. Mike's not Keenan Allen. He doesn't win the way that Keenan Allen does. He wins in different ways, but you as a quarterback have to take a little bit more of a risk involved when you throw it to Mike, because you have to have more faith in him than seeing a bunch of open grass or open space like it is with other receivers. That's my big Mike Evans rant. No, absolutely nothing is wrong. It's fine. The team is winning. They're scoring a lot of points. That's the way it's going to be.
All right. KB, I wanted to bring you in here because I know that you wanted to talk a little bit about AB.
Well, it's the, I mean, everyone's, freaking out. He went on the COVID list. There's still a possibility they could play. Probably he's not going to play, just based on, different situations. Let's take the hypothetical that he doesn't play. For me, this is, everyone's going to say, okay, this is Mike Evans' opportunity to now, go off, or Scotty Miller's now this fantasy ad who's going to get, the 50-yard reception. I mean, no, this was always going to be, to me, the Antonio Brown, the Chris Godwin, the Rob Gronkowski game. And there's going to be games that are going to be the Mike Evans, the Scotty Miller, and the OJ Howard. This game, to me, you beat the Rams how they play. You play action. You keep 12, 13 personnel, and you basically, or 11 personnel, excuse me, and you just literally pick them apart, win the third downs. To me, this whole game is about winning third down. Whoever's going to have the most third and shorts and most first down conversions is going to win this game. And then I think everyone's just blowing AB out of proportion because AB is so talented. I was on the show saying last year we shouldn't have gotten him. Obviously, I'm wrong. It happens. But that was more to do with, his personality and his off the field than it was his play. But now that we have him, he's a luxury. And I think we need to forget like that this team is perfect and is going to be perfect every single week. I mean, AB is just one part, as Trevor was alluding to with Mike Evans, of a situation of Mike Evans is going to be probably the most inconsistent receiver on this team in terms of stats.
Yes.
Not in terms of
Yes.
play,
Yes.
in terms of stats.
100%.
Chris Godwin is going to be the most consistent in terms of targets, usage, blocking, whatever you want to, call his role is, because it's a little bit of everything. Antonio Brown, as Trevor was alluding to with Keenan Allen, is the separator. The Rams are going to play a lot of zone. So it's going to be finding those spots in the middle.
Yeah,
the
finding those spots in the zone.
The Godwins, the Antonio Brown running the out route whenever Jalen Ramsey's ever on him and playing man. Doing those kinds of small things. Mike Evans might not have a ridiculous game this week. Doesn't mean Mike Evans can't go out for 150. The way I look at Mike Evans is, it's kind of like, the first 2 weeks. It's like an every other game type thing. If you take a 0 reception, 0-yard game, and then take a 150-yard game in the second game, they average a 75, don't they? It's the same as Chris Godwin getting 75 yards in 2 games. I think people need to have that mentality with Mike, that he is this uber talented physical freak. But he's also part of a system that's now not a deep ball system, not a Jameis target you because our best chance is literally just throwing the ball down the field. Let's see what happens, because honestly, our defense wasn't that good a couple years ago. Now we have these tools around him. We have an offensive line. We have Tom Brady who gets the ball out super quick. I mean, we're seeing it with the Rams even, or not the Rams, the Saints right now. The Saints are getting graded from Pro Football Reference as allowing the most pressures in the NFL, or second most pressures as of week 2. We know the Saints defense or offensive line is probably top 1 or 2 in the NFL. It comes down to quarterback play. It comes to where's that ball going to go. And we know Tom Brady is going to get that ball out in 2 or 3 seconds. You're going to throw to that separator more than you are the 50-50 back shoulder. But you know what? When Tom Brady does throw that 50-50 back shoulder, and you know what? Mike Evans is running different routes now. He ran a whip route for a touchdown last week. They're going to adapt. He's going to do more. They're going to find creative ways to get him open because he's super talented. Just don't read into fantasy.
And to that point, think about this. I mean, he contributed 14 points to the Bucs win. I mean, to me, that's more important. You know, I would love to see him get that 1,000 yards again. But at the end of the day, the wins and losses are what should be the major factor here. And the fact that he was able to contribute towards the win, I'm good with that, because he's going to get the hot hand again throughout the season at some point. If it's not Chris Godwin, it may be Mike Evans, it may be Gronk. You don't know who it's going to be. I mean, with that wide receiver, just the offensive room, the way it is.
Poison.
Exactly. And what did Bruce Arians say? Wide ass open. Somebody's going to be wide ass open, and that's just pretty much how it's going to be.
Yep. Agreed.
So I hate fantasy football for that.
You know what? I kind of I played last year, and I shouldn't have. And I had to root for the Dallas Cowboys of all teams.
I'm sorry for that, Gene. I drafted Dak for him. Trevor,
good,
to give you reference.
He balled out. But now, I have a clear head again. I can look at the sport right now and enjoy it, and like watching Tampa, seeing somebody that, you look at AB week 1, he went off. And then, week 2, you've got Gronk coming in and he's contributing. And then you've got Mike Evans. This is what I want to see. I don't want these defensive coordinators to be able to key in on anybody. I want them to, okay, he might be the guy this week. He might be the guy this week. And I'm good with that. I mean, that's what I think will help this team. And again, having a quarterback that can distribute the ball without worrying about turning it over on a regular basis is breathtaking.
And then the fact that we have Scotty Miller and Tyler Johnson, who would probably, worst case scenario, be number 2 or 3 for most NFL teams as your wide receivers 4 and 5 to step in to kind of fill those different roles.
Right.
I mean, we saw last year, every time Scotty Miller in the playoffs was playing 8-9 snaps, Brady would throw to him 4 times.
Right.
2 of them for 50-yard catches. So when you see Scotty on Sunday, the Rams are not stupid. They're going to have a safety, or because probably Jalen's not going to be on Scotty. Someone's going to be over the top of him, which is going to open up Mike. It's going to open up Chris. It's going to open up Gronk. That's the point of this offense. And this is the point of Brady, because you're not forcing things. You're just finding it's throw who's open. They're wide ass open. There you go. Here's the ball. Go get some yak.
So, Trevor, I again, thank you so much for coming on. And for those of you just joining us, I'm Trevor Sikkema from Pro Football Focus. I want to talk about this app. Do I call it an app, or do I just call it the greatness that it is, football greatness?
Encyclopedia?
Can I call it football greatness? That's what you guys should have named it. Pro Football Greatness.
I don't know if PFG sounds good though. That sounds like a Roald Dahl novel. PFG.
But I love this, man, because just, wherever I go, I'm just getting stats and I'm looking at these grades and I'm like, wow, I never thought about that. And we were talking off camera, and Trevor was telling me, I was like, man, I still don't believe I've even scratched the surface on all the things I can do with PFF. So, I just wanted to kind of talk to you about it. How are you settling in as far as everything goes?
Oh, I'm loving it, man. It's a great team of people over at PFF. They're very driven. They're very motivated. They're always looking at ways to improve. The guys who work there, I've known them for a really long time, just like through Twitter and through working in the industry. I've had good relationships with them, but now it's really cool to have them as colleagues, have them as people that I get to collaborate with and work with. And right now we're doing a big focus of ours is we do a college football live show on Fridays, and we do an NFL pregame show on Sundays. We do both of those at 11 a.m. on Friday and then on Sunday. And it's just been great. It's been great to be able to put on those shows and be on the same desk with people who are super knowledgeable, and they're certainly pushing me to be better every single time we do the show. And so it's been a blast working at PFF. And Yeah, no doubt, Gene. It's a beast. Everything that PFF offers is a beast, and they have, I think, two different main subscriptions that you can get if you don't have one now. One of them is called an Edge subscription. I believe that's $40 for the year, and it gives you like an overview of some players, like certain stats. It gives you a fantasy football draft guide. It gives you the NFL draft guide when it comes out. So it gives you a lot of the baseline stuff that we offer at PFF. But if you want all the premium stats, like you want to be able to see what somebody's grade is and what somebody's like, not just overall grade, but like coverage grade and pass rush grade and run defense grade, because it's all broken up into that, or see exactly where they play. You know, are they playing, if they're a left defensive end, or if they're a left outside linebacker, or like where they're aligning in the defense, or all those things. You can get a PFF Edge subscription. I think it's just under $200 for a year. So you get that for a full year. And obviously it's not just for the Bucs either. What I used PFF for before I even worked there is I would use it because I would watch Bucs games every week, especially when I was working at Pewter Report, but then I wouldn't really be able to keep tabs on the rest of the league. And so when you have a PFF subscription, it makes it really easy to see like, oh, who's performing well on other teams? What's the other matchup that they have coming up? Like, how are they? Like, are they good at run defense? Like, are they vulnerable in coverage? Do they have a good passing game? Is their offensive line weak? And so you can look all that stuff up over at PFF. And so if you guys don't have a subscription, I would highly recommend it because it's pretty awesome.
So, real quick, and I'm just curious about this. Is this connected in any way with the All 22, or is that something? Because I know All 22 is Game Pass,
Right.
which I haven't seen since last year, by the way. Just throwing that out there.
You're not the only one, unless you live in Europe.
So I will say that we have it. We have all the All 22 for all of the teams. But we can't give the All 22 up with either subscription. So that's something that I have that as somebody who works for PFF, but that doesn't come with any of the subscriptions.
Well, isn't that mainly because
because of what?
Because you're in a different aspect. I mean, I've heard players use PFF.
Oh, right. Like players and agents use PFF grades when they like go to the negotiating table for contracts. Like it's like advantageous to them, right? So I've heard of that before. But no, we can't. Yeah, we can't do the All 22 thing because that's an NFL Game Pass thing, and they have exclusivity to fans being able to access All 22. So unfortunately, no, we can't help you out there. You gotta still wait for Game Pass to hurry their ass up and get some All 22 out.
Yeah, this is worse than the last time they didn't have it like they were supposed to right out the gate. So
yeah, they're not great. That platform is not great. It's not great.
Yeah, hopefully they will fix this and get it right. That's something I do miss. It's not the same as watching a game. You have to kind of go back and rewatch a game, and you can only see it from certain angles. And it just, I don't know. I just feel like it's missing something when you have to freeze and look at this, and you kind of have to like take a step back and try to figure out what you're looking at. It's just not the same as looking at it from the different angles.
Right.
Well, to me, PFF is very similar to watching a game like All 22 in the sense that you're going to get more aspects of what's not on a stat sheet. Like people are going to look at Shaq Barrett only having 1 sack, Vita Vea having 0 sacks. Oh, he's not good. Let's not vote for him for Pro Bowl. When you look and watch the film, you can see, okay, Vita Vea is dominating every single play. Joe Tryon, Ledger threw up a nice video earlier today about Shaq Barrett, Joe Tryon throwing a wicked move on Jake Matthews, but then Vita Vea took him completely out of the play right as he was about to get a strip sack fumble. What PFF and all these, different sites and then All 22, what you're able to do is condense everything to be able to have a better understanding of the lines in between, to understand, how a player is actually doing. No system's ever perfect, but when you have like PFF has the personalities, the people, the resources, people who've been working in this industry for a long time to have a good understanding of what Trevor was mentioning earlier, what's going on with the rest of the league. And so again, being able to have those kind of resources, we can't do anything about, the All 22, but we can do something about, PFF. So continue to, broaden. If this is something you want to do, again, there's the 2 different options. One's for the complete junkies, And I think the other one's definitely a good introduction if this is something you want to learn more about, especially to broaden your horizons outside of the Bucs. Because not everyone can, be college athletes or work in the industry or do whatever. But you can, if that's something that makes you passionate and you want to learn more, good resources, the same amount as getting, Chick-fil-A for you and your girl. I mean, like, it's real. Let's break it down. I mean, it's really not that much.
My guy, the salesman, I love this guy. I mean,
I was gonna say I need to get you guys free merch for pumping up the company as much as you have on this show. I appreciate it.
no, but I actually use it.
We use it.
I am a customer. I dig the hat. That's why I was telling you. I'm digging the swag, But I wanted to get your thoughts on the NFC South before we go.
Mhm.
Just a lot of the things, again, contenders, pretenders. You looked at the Saints. The Saints look like world beaters. Everybody was talking about, Winston as the MVP. And of course, as Bucs fans, we know from time to time how things go. And when you look at things and how things are starting to settle down, you're starting to see consistencies in certain positions. And, like I said, that's why I said game 5, game 6 is where you really get an idea based on consistencies and, injuries. You can kind of factor in how a team is going to potentially look. So, when I look at the NFC South, Carolina,
About to be 3-0 Carolina.
Yeah. Carolina looks better than I expected. I expected people to really buy into Matt Rule's system based on what I saw last year. But I did not expect the defense to do what it's done. And I just want to get your thoughts on the NFC South. How do you see the NFC South?
Yeah, so before the season, I said that the Bucs were going to win the division easily, and then I thought the Saints were going to be a wild card team, right around 10 wins. And I mean, I still think that it's somewhere, it's going to be between 8 to 10 wins that the Saints end up winning. I mean, I think they're going to be above 500 team for sure. I did not have a lot of faith in the Falcons, and I had more faith in Carolina, but I wasn't exactly sure like how Carolina was going to look overall. They looked really great 2 games in. The Saints were supposed to be their one tough game that they had really to open up the season. As KB said, they're going to be 3-0. I mean, they're going to win this upcoming weekend, especially with Tyrod Taylor not playing quarterback for the Houston Texans. So they're about to be 3-0, but they have a really easy schedule. Carolina has a really easy schedule this year, and I think that they're going to use that to their advantage. I think that this is a 7 to 8 win team. I think that that's what it's going to be. I don't think it's going to be enough to make the playoffs, but who knows? They might be able to impress me a lot more when that schedule gets a little bit harder. Maybe they can kind of prove themselves, but I'm not all in on Carolina. It's nice that Sam Darnold doesn't look absolutely terrible. Like that's good for him.
Right.
So I think that that's a good move for Carolina. That young defense is really flying. Their defensive coordinator, Phil Snow, is doing a lot of really cool stuff. The offensive coordinator, obviously Joe Brady, is fantastic as well. So I think the Carolina is probably going to win about 7-ish games, anywhere from 6 to 8. That's probably my guess. And then the Falcons, I mean, I think that's I think the Falcons are probably a 4 or 5 win team. I don't really have a lot of faith in the Falcons. So that's really the way that I saw it preseason. Not a lot has changed other than I think Carolina might be a little bit better than I was giving them credit for, and that might steal a game away from the New Orleans Saints, clearly at the beginning of the year when they won that one there. So that's probably, it's not too different than what I thought preseason, but here we are.
So are you, on a scale of 1 to 10, how impressed are you with Sam Darnold?
I guess like a 7 or an 8. I mean, like the Jets defense isn't very good, and they were able to kind of capitalize there. But Saints defense is pretty good. Saints defense has got talent. He was getting the ball out nice. He's taking care of the football, and he's better, And so maybe not an 8. Maybe it's just like a solid 7. Like I think that I'm impressed that he is not complete ass like he was when he was with the New York Jets. And so at least we get to say that it was all Adam Gase's fault yet again, which I enjoy. But I do think that I'm more impressed with him coming back, hearing a lot of negativity, a lot of pressure on his shoulders, and he looks like he's playing well so far.
Yeah, there you go. For me, I did not expect him to play as good as he has. He's been a very good decision maker. He hasn't put his team in harm's way, and he's showing that arm a little bit, and that I think with the young receivers that they have had is going to be very helpful for the Carolina Panthers. And the one thing that I'm really interested in is watching this team, that pretty organic team. I mean, from the draft picks, and they haven't gone out and gotten any superstars in free agency. And everybody that they've brought in is buying into this Matt Rule's system. So, again, this is going to be an interesting team. Out of everybody in the NFC South, I would say Carolina, and I think I had to preface this on Christian McCaffrey staying healthy. I have to preface this on that, because I can promise you, if he goes down, let's hope, and I don't wish injury on anybody, this is going to be a different Carolina Panthers team.
Sure. Yeah, no doubt. Even with Darnold playing really well,
yeah.
McCaffrey's the engine for sure. So I'm looking forward to the first Panthers Bucs game. I really am. I think that's going to be a good bar for both teams to see how seriously Tampa is taking Carolina, how much they can take care of business against divisional opponent. And then I think that's when we really learn like how good Sam Darnold and this younger Panthers team really is when they get to go up against Tampa. So I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah. So out of all the games this season, is there one game that you can kind of pinpoint and say, this is the most exciting game? This is the game I'm really looking forward to
for Tampa.
Yeah, for Tampa.
I mean, it's this one. It's this week. This is the preview of the NFC Championship game. I mean, like these teams, this was my pick to be the NFC Championship game at the near end of the season. It was Tampa Bay and Los Angeles Rams, and obviously the Rams got the better of Tampa Bay last season. Kind of lit a fire underneath them, and it propelled them to win a Super Bowl. But these are two incredible coaching staffs, a lot of talent on each side, and this time the Los Angeles Rams have Matthew Stafford. And for as much as I think the Rams have played well in their first 2 weeks here, I think that we are going to see an even more advanced Matthew Stafford. I think that there are some plays that the Rams haven't even called yet that they're waiting to unveil this game. I really do think that the Rams are going to give Tampa absolutely their best. I don't know who wins this one this time, but I know that, I don't know, but I am very confident in this won't be the last time that these two face off, whether it happens to be in the divisional round or whether it is for the conference championship. I think that this is only part one of what we see versus Rams and Bucs.
And when I think about the Rams have been a thorn in the side of the Bucs for years. And I mean, going back to 79, it's just been that way. They've always played Tampa strong. And again, this is going to be a great game. And I'm actually looking forward to this. To me, this is kind of a measuring stick to see where Tampa really is, and how much they've improved or digressed, regressed, since the beginning of the season. So it should be good. Should be a really good game.
Yep. Agreed.
Well, guys, I want to take this opportunity again, Trevor. Thank you so much. I can't believe we're always almost at an hour here, but I want to give me 4 picks for this upcoming game. Not the Bucs. We don't pick scores on the Bucs.
Trevor, we are undefeated when we haven't picked a Bucs game, so we're keeping that streak alive. So
okay, so what am I picking here?
So if you're looking at your games, if you're on Pro Football Focus and you're looking at the scores, you see how I threw that in there.
Yeah.
Just pick 5 games and give me your thoughts. And let me do it this way. Let's look at the Washington football team versus the Buffalo Bills. Who you got?
Yeah, I'm going to take the Bills in that one because the Bills are another team that I think has conference championship game aspirations. Obviously, they had an upsetting loss to the Pittsburgh Steelers to start the season, but bounced back in a huge way, shutting out the Dolphins. I think that they're going to right the ship. And even though this Washington football team is going to be scrappy, they're going to be competitive. I think this is the kind of game that the Bills need to win. And so I'll say the Bills in this one. And you want me to pick 4 more? Is that what you want me to do? Because I can. Okay. So Chargers Chiefs is the other one that I'm looking at. It's two of the best young quarterbacks in the game between Justin Herbert and Patrick Mahomes. I think the Chiefs are going to win, but I think this is a game where the Chargers really let the Chiefs know, like, hey, we're not going to be pushovers. You're not just going to coast to win this division every single year. If you win it, it's going to be a lot more of a dogfight than it has in the past couple of years. I think the Chargers are going to all right, give them a run for their money, and that's going to be an exciting game. But it's in Kansas City. Kansas City, obviously coming off the loss against the Ravens. I don't think they're going to drop 2 in a row, and so I think that's a game that I'm really looking forward to. Packers 49ers is interesting because this is a game. This is a Sunday Night Football game that some people thought that these two teams could potentially be NFC Championship contending teams. I don't see Green Bay in that light. I just don't. In order for Green Bay to make it back to the NFC Championship game, Aaron Rodgers would have to play at the same unbelievable MVP level that he played last year, and I'm just not going to bet that happens again. And so I think Aaron Rodgers is incredible. He gives you a chance to win every single week. I fully believe that, but to predict that he is going to duplicate the previous season is going to be really tough for me. So this is kind of a barometer game. Like, are the 49ers and the Packers for real? I think this game can go a long way. Colts are playing the Titans, and this is a battle for the division, basically. And when I say that it's a battle for the division, I mean the Colts better win this game or their division hopes are about to go out the window real quick. Because if the Colts don't win this game, the Titans bounce back, obviously, in a huge way against the Seahawks. They got a lot of momentum on their side. They'd be picking up a divisional win. They'd be picking up an individual win against the Colts, and it would also be sending the Colts to 3-0 or 0-3. Like, that's not good. So that's a big game that I'm going to have my eye on. And then, I mean, if I'm picking one more, I'm picking Saints Patriots because Jameis is the most entertaining ticket in sports whenever he takes the field. Doesn't matter what's going on. So I don't know. I'd probably pick that one.
Yeah. So who you got? So you got do you have the Saints on that one?
No. I would have the Patriots in that game. I would have in the games that I highlighted. I think the Patriots are going to beat the Saints. I think the Titans are going to beat the Colts. I think I'll say the Packers beat the 49ers, and then I think the Chiefs beat the Chargers, along with the Bills beating Washington. So those are my 5.
All right. Well, there you go. I'm looking at this game. I'm still interested to see what the New England Patriots really have. I'm not 100% sold on them. I know that Belichick put a lot into that team, in the off season. I'm just kind of waiting to see. I know it's still early in the season. You can't put a whole lot into it. So I'm really curious to see what they end up doing. As far as that Chiefs Chargers game, that's a division rivalry. And I love the Chargers quarterback. I'm not 100% sold on Kansas City. The way that they handle the run, that tend to be a problem so far. And I don't know about you, but just watching them against Baltimore, they were running at will, it seemed like. And so that's something that Kansas City is going to have to fix in order to, even be able to survive in the AFC West. KB.
To me, I want to see how the Patriots defense is we can talk about, whether you like or don't dislike Jameis. I want to see how that defense by week 3, have they gelled? Is everyone back? Obviously, Stephon Gilmore's not playing, but I want to see, how this is going to translate to the Bucs game week 4, because it's going to be at home for the Patriots. Jameis is, for all of his faults, is no slouch. I want to see just how Bill schemes everything up there. I got the Patriots there, but I think that game's going to be a little bit better than what I think we anticipate. But to me, everything revolves around the Packers 49ers. Are the Packers going to bounce back in any sort of way against a legitimate team? 49ers, are they legitimate with Jimmy Garoppolo, or are they going to need to turn to Trey Lance at some point? I think the 49ers, just moving forward the first half of the season, I think Jimmy G just has to answer that question. Because if there's any slight, I think there's a Colin Kaepernick situation that happened to Alex Smith on the horizon. Even if they're 6-2, if they don't look good, and Jimmy's the reason why they're going to be held back in any way, I see Kyle Shanahan pulling the trigger.
I mean, is that something? Well, I guess as a coach, you're watching how each guy is progressing, right? At this point, and are the Niners in a place where you're looking for this guy that gives you the best opportunity to win, or do you want to kind of hold Lance back a little bit and let Garoppolo play until you get to a point where you can just put him out there and let him go? Or how do you feel? I mean, as far as where they are right now in that quarterback position.
Me and Trevor.
Either one.
For
me, I was gonna say for me, I mean Jimmy G's done all right. But the thing is, though, the 49ers, that's why I think this is a good litmus test for the for the 49ers against the Packers. Obviously, week one did not go their way. So this is a good opportunity. They're going to be 2-1 if they win this game. Fantastic. The 49ers, they're 2-0. If they win, they're 3-0. If they lose, the Cardinals are playing the Jaguars. That NFC West, is crazy. And let's say the Bucs lose to the Rams. Rams are 3-0. That just opens the floodgates for that NFC West. And if they drop that game, they could easily be number 3. And I know it's early in the season, it's week 3, but that's when decisions get made. Like, you have this young quarterback. Trey Lance has been on the field. He hasn't done bad. He didn't do that bad in the preseason. Yes, if you want to look at statistics, fine. But, he's playing with second, third stringers. We saw what Kyle Trask looked like. I mean, this is just a huge game for me that can change the landscape of the NFC, because I think we all can agree the Bucs are a top 1 or 2 team in the NFC, and that NFC West is going to beat each other out. Packers are probably coming out of the Central. This is just NFC East. Who knows? Who cares? The NFC West, that could be all 4 teams in the playoffs for all we know.
Yeah, real easily.
Yeah, I mean, that's clearly the strongest division. I think it's fair to say it's the strongest division in the NFL. I mean, I don't think the Bengals are going to make that much noise. And so when I think of the AFC North, it's like, okay, Steelers better than we thought. Ravens are really good. Browns are really good, but still, I'd be taking the NFC West over all of those. I mean, like you can make a case for every single team in the NFC West, not just to make the playoffs, but win the division. And when that's the case, when you can make a case for all of them to make the playoffs and win the division, that's pretty nuts. So I think that's the strongest division.
Well, we didn't even mention the Seahawks in this entire discussion. They're playing the Vikings, who are 0-2. They could be 2-1. They should have won last week.
Right. Should have won last week for sure. Yeah.
All right.
NFC West is just crazy. I know it's week 3, but you could be looking at all 4 teams 2-1 or better.
Yeah.
Hey, last question. I'm going to let you go. We're going to get on out of here. The taunting rule. I have to put this out here.
It's a question.
Again, I don't know what you're able to say or what you're not able to say here. But for me, the taunting rule is straight bullshit. It is. I mean, I've seen some Bush League plays. Yeah, I've seen that. But at the end of the day, if your team is not able to stop this team, then I'm sorry for you. But or vice versa. And I just have had a problem with this. And I'm listening to all these clowns that are coming on TV doing interviews talking about this is what the fans want. The fans want us to. No, the fans don't want you. This is what the owners want.
John Mara came out and said so himself.
Exactly. That guy.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there are some penalties that you could call, but what they're doing right now, they're deflating the vibe out of the game, to be honest.
Yeah, I think the taunting rule is awful. I think it was a terrible concept when it got introduced, and we made a fit about it during the offseason, and it's even worse now. I mean, we're seeing more flags thrown than ever. I can't remember who put this out. Somebody tweeted out right before we came on the show that there had never been a game in the NFL before where more than 200 – there had never been a week in the NFL before where I think more than 200 penalties were called. And we've now had back-to-back weeks where more than 200 penalties were called, like consecutively. And obviously the taunting rule goes a lot into this, and it's stupid. Do you want taunting to get out of control? No, but there are other rules that are already in place that safeguard that. You can make an unsportsmanlike conduct penalty. You can make a sideline penalty. You can do all of these things to make sure that these players aren't getting too out of control without creating an actual taunting rule, which now just entices referees to call it a lot more, because the game of football is all about you dominating your opponent in a physical way that is so draining to your body, so demanding of your body, both mentally and physically, that like when you make a big play, when you make a statement, like you get emotional. That's what this game of football is all about. And you're going to get emotional and you're going to run somebody over and you're going to flex on them and you're probably going to say something that can't be repeated on TV to them. And obviously, like, you don't want that stuff to get out of control. But the whole notion of like all taunting is bad is stupid. If you're getting really crudely vulgar with your opponents, yeah, nobody wants to hear that. Shut up. But like at the end of the day, you know how you shut those people up? You don't let them score, or you score on them. And it's just like, that's what the game of football is all about. The taunting rule sucks. Like I said, there were already safeguards in the rules that existed to stop when things went too far. Like if
sportsmanlike conduct.
Yeah, like if the whole team came off the bench after you scored and like celebrated with you in the end zone, that's an unsportsmanlike conduct penalty.
You flag immediately.
Right. You call the flag on that team. Or if there's somebody who like goes out of their way to do something absolutely egregious, it's an unsportsmanlike conduct penalty. When you create an entire rule that is called taunting, you now not only empower, but you instill an expectation for refs to call this. So even if you truck somebody over in the hole and you get you convert a 4th down, a 4th and 2, and you look and you stand over them and you flex and you be like, stay down. Like they have to now throw that flag because the penalty exists in a different way than it did before. And it's just stupid. There's no other way to say it. I know that like old head owners at the top think that it's ruining the game when taunting happens, but in reality, it's ruining the game when you're calling penalties like that. Because I can't remember which game it was.
It was week 1, wasn't it? It was week 1, and running back ran over somebody.
No, that was preseason. The Colts running back. I remember running over someone and literally just got up and just went went to his teammates and did like a gesture, but he got called unsportsmanlike.
No, something happened. Something happened, I think, last week where a guy got a taunting call in a super close game. I can't remember what game it was. I'm pissed I can't remember. But like somebody got a taunting call in a super close game, and I remember going on Twitter and everybody was like, how do you call that? Like, this is a close game. This is a like down to the wire game. And you're going to give this team 10 to 15 yards, whatever it is. Like that's you can't do that.
So now that kind of delves into sports betting a little bit, because there are billions of dollars on the line right now. And you're involving refs. You're involving refs more so than what they have been. And the refs have been progressively getting worse, in my opinion, on calling games since the lockout. No, it wasn't a lockout. It was the referee.
That was Seattle game.
Yeah. Since that point,
I think 4 or 5 years ago,
progressively the refs, the play call, the calling of games has just gotten worse. I don't want to know a ref's first name. Why do I have to know Hockey Lee's name? I know it.
2012 referee lockout. Sorry.
The Spytor is the other guy. Why do I know? I shouldn't know these guys' names. They shouldn't have that much of an impact on the game. But that's what we're seeing. And my concern now is, how do you fix this? And there has to be something. They have to step in. Logical minds have to step in right now and try to fix this. Because this is just going too far.
Well, that's the biggest problem, honestly, is you said, logical minds have to step in and fix this. And I think we're getting to a point with officiating the game where we're taking a lot of logic out of the game, right? And you look at roughing the passer penalties. You remember the Thursday Night Football game when Chase Young gets flagged for unnecessary roughness on the quarterback. And people on Twitter, some people on Twitter were saying like, that's technically the rule. Like he broke the rule. Yeah. And I agree 100%. He broke the rule. Rule shouldn't exist. Like you should not, because if you watch that play, you watch Chase Young fire off the line of scrimmage, put his foot in the ground, split the left tackle and the left guard, take 2 more steps, and boom, he puts his chest straight into Daniel Jones as Daniel Jones is throwing the ball, and he brings him down. And yes, his weight goes on Daniel Jones, but guess what? That's the game of football. And I know what the NFL is doing. They're protecting their moneymakers. Right. Quarterbacks make them money. That's just the way it is. And they say that it's all about player safety. And I mean, there's no debating that these rules.
There's inconsistency when you talk about player safety and referees.
Well, this one's like there's no debating that these rules make the game safer. They do.
Yeah.
They just also change the game completely. And it stinks, because now you have Chase Young getting a flag because he quote unquote put his weight on the quarterback when he sacked him. And then on the other side of things, you have John Allen beating the center for the sack later in that game. He takes Daniel Jones and WWE suplexes him to the ground, and that's not a penalty, because that's not a penalty, because it's not in the rule book that sort of motion should be called. And how absolutely stupid is that we are at that point where John Allen doesn't get flagged for suplexing Daniel Jones, which I guarantee was more of a detriment to his health than Chase Young's was, which is just a routine sack. So yeah, I mean, there's no doubt about it. They're changing the game, they're changing the rules, and officials have a really hard job. I never want to discount that. Like this game, like I was an intramural ref for basketball when I was in college, and
basketball's the worst.
It sucked, man. Like the game's moving so fast. You got people yelling at you on both sides. You can't win. Like it sucks to be a ref. I'm not saying it's easy, but there's no doubt about it that the rules that they've made, especially over the last couple of years, have sucked, and they're taking away from the game when they don't need to. And that's my thing. These are rules that exist that don't need to take away the game.
Yeah. And I think that, these owners, the competition committee, and I know that you people like Mike Tomlin, people like that are on the competition committee, but at the same time, I don't think that, I don't know. And I know fans are kind of like, I want to say novices, but I just think they're taken away from the game. I'm going to put it that. I don't know the best way to really describe it, but I think it takes away from the game. And refs, Rob Reshoots is talking about here about the Lamar Jackson flip into the end zone. It was not a penalty, only because there were not any players. He had ran so fast, nobody was close enough to him to be, to call it taunting. Is what I kind of take from it, if I'm not mistaken. I think there has to be somebody near him or something to that effect in order.
Well, here's my thing. So with this whole Lamar Jackson, Mike Edwards thing, what if they did call it on Lamar though? That changes that whole landscape of that game. Maybe the Ravens don't win.
Yeah.
And playing field position, getting 15 more yards on a kickoff for Patrick Mahomes usually is death for most teams. That's usually turning 3s into 7s. Yeah. And Edwards, he got his second. The thing is, you can't do context for these. It's like targeting also in college football.
Don't even get me started on that one.
Well, this is where I'm going here, is just because you're giving people split seconds to make a decision without having people who have the replays to be able to help them and get the correct call. So, like, for instance, you're not going to go to someone upstairs for a taunting penalty. Like Ryan Jensen gets punched in the face, mouths off to a guy, and he gets a taunting penalty. Mm-hmm. Like, there's just a lot of, gray areas in these rules. And, we're talking about, we don't want quarterbacks to be hit high. We don't want quarterbacks to be hit low below the knee. But then, there's Chase Young. You hit him in the chest. What are you supposed to do? And, there's rules that they actually have gotten better at. And the thing is, people focus on these rules because they're 15-plus yard penalties, within the NFL compared to college. A pass interference penalty, spot of the foul. I mean, that could be a 50-yard penalty for crying out loud. And there's just no way to really, conceivably in the moment get that call absolutely 100% correct all the time. one thing that they have been doing really well, and I want to know if you both agree, is they've been doing pretty well in terms of these helmet-to-helmet contact penalties. And to me, that's a safety penalty that they've actually done pretty well on. It doesn't, completely change the course of the game. It's something that, is obvious in that no one's trying to be egregious, but that's where I brought up the whole thing in the college football game, is because we're seeing players get ejected. At least the NFL isn't at that point where it's that bad, where Carlton Davis, I think, got ejected a couple years ago versus the Saints for, a helmet-to-helmet penalty.
Mm-hmm.
But that's the kind of stuff we don't want to see. We don't want to see these game-altering plays.
Carlton launched at whoever it was, right? Carlton actually headhunted whoever it was. So I understood that one, but I do agree with what you're saying.
But what I'm saying is that, and there's only a small amount of instances where a player's been kicked out.
Right.
Or, it completely altered the game. That hasn't been the case with helmet to helmet compared to, roughing the passer, compared to, pass interference, to all of these taunting penalties. I mean, those penalties can change the course of a game.
Yeah. So,
and at least we're not seeing players getting kicked out. So that's the only thing I can say positive in terms of safety that's going on. But we're not seeing these quarterbacks getting injured on, penalties that are for roughing the passer. And that to me is kind of an issue that needs to be observed, is because we're seeing quarterbacks get injured outside the pocket when they're rolling out, running out of bounds on the sideline like Jimmy G did, tear your ACL. That's different. We're going to see, we've already seen roughing the passer calls for offensive linemen shoving defensive linemen from the back, not a holding call, no elite block in the back, roughing the passer on defense. And that's, to me, where they have to either we don't even know what a catch is. So how are they going to tell us what roughing the penalty or roughing the passer is? But again, I think Gene's talking to that word consistency. I don't think they're ever going to get it. And I think the XFL did a really good job of having that, Sky Cam or Sky Ref, whatever that could.
I love the concept.
Mm-hmm. And I'm not saying that the NFL should absolutely go towards that, but give these refs some help.
But there has to be some semblance of transparency.
Transparency. That's a good word for this.
And the reason I say that is because I don't trust a ref's call. They may be talking in New York. They may be talking about the girl they're going on a date with tonight. I don't know what they're talking about. We're just guessing.
We're talking about the blonde and row C.
So I don't know, man. But hey, guys, it's late. I appreciate you guys coming on. I appreciate all the listeners. Again, Trevor, tell everybody how they can get a hold of you, my friend.
Yeah, on Twitter at Tampa Bay Trey, and that's where I'm basically going to be posting all my work. Like I said earlier in the show, PFF's got a college football preview show every week on Friday at 11 a.m. and then an NFL kickoff show at 11 a.m. every single Sunday. That's at their Twitter account and on YouTube, Pro Football Focus as well. So appreciate it, fellas. Always love hopping on with you. This is fun.
All
for
right.
that podcast for everyone, Trevor, is that on YouTube, Apple Podcasts? Where can the people find it?
It's not a podcast. So
or
I
it's
think
a show.
Only it's only on YouTube. You'll only be able to find it. Well, YouTube, and then if you follow Pro Football Focus on Twitter, we also broadcast it on Twitter. So you'll be able to see that every Sunday morning too.
That's PFF on YouTube for everyone.
I think it's just Pro Football Focus.
Pro Football Focus. There you go, everyone. Make sure you tune in.
All right, KB, tell everybody how they can get a hold of you, and we'll roll up out of here.
Bucs_Barrett. Just get rid of taunting. That's all we need to do. Just get rid of it. Just right. Can we just X a rule in the middle of the season?
That's what I'm saying.
I don't think they're going to do that.
All right. And guys, again, thank you so much. Without you being in the chat, without you listening and checking us out, wouldn't be able to do this. So thank you guys so much. Whatever platform you're listening on, we will be back here doing this again, and hopefully we haven't scared Trevor off and we can get him back on again later on in the season to talk about our beloved Bucs.
Of course. Appreciate you guys having me on, man.
All right.
Trevor.
All right. We are out of here. Peace.